everyday Christian, I'm going to say woman, but it's very applicable to men as well. So if you're a man and you're watching, know that you're welcome here as well. Today we want to start with a verse before we actually get into the topic, but as you can see from the title, it's about giving up too easily. And we know that God has good things for us, but so often we kind of rob ourselves of the ability to see something through and see the good.
That's right. We quit too fast. We quit too early, and we don't see the benefits of being consistent or being faithful.
Yeah. So the verse today, it's actually the verse of the day from the YouVersion Bible app, which was really fitting for us today because we'd already planned to talk about this. It's Colossians 3, verses 23 and 24. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving.
Wow. Just keep that up because I want to see that as we talk, because that is powerful. Those are powerful words, and we need to break it down and think about what it even means. Like, whatever you do, what does that mean? Whatever you do.
Well, on the app today, like, it's athletes right now from Athletes in Action talking because of the Olympics that are giving the little message. And so she's talking about, like, this means me in my athletics, but it goes so much beyond that. It goes so much further beyond just you in your actual workplace. That it's talking about the way that we run our homes. It's talking about the way that we live. It's talking about everything that we do, whatever you do. It doesn't say only at work.
Yeah, and that reminds me of this whole saying that we used to say a lot. How you do anything is how you do, is that right? How you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes along with that. Like, whatever you do it with all your might. So, like, we could think about how you do anything. And I just right away think of making my bed in the morning. Like, you might think, oh, I don't need to make my bed in the morning. And no, you don't need to make your bed in the morning. But I'm going to say, if you make your bed in the morning, you are probably apt to have a tidier house because you're willing to make your bed in the morning. You know, it's like when you go into your bedroom, everything just looks so much tidier if your bed is made.
It does.
And
it's amazing.
Like, it takes like 5 minutes, if that.
It takes me 30 seconds because mine's not made nicely, but it's made. Because the kids get in it every 3 minutes and mess it all back up and I have to do it again 15 times.
But, you know, my husband and I decided a long time ago, when we first got married, and that's a long time ago, it's over 40 years now, that we were going to make our bed in the morning because we like to go into a bedroom that looks neat and tidy. And so we do that. We do it every morning. And maybe there's the exception. Of course, there is an exception if we're ill or whatever. But when we go into our bedroom and we see that we've done this little task, it just says, I can do it. And you just feel good about yourself because you've done a small thing.
But we just, in life, we give up on things that we truly want far too easily most of the time. And what we wrote for the description here today it's so relevant too, so we thought we would just read it because so often people don't even see it. But it says this: have you ever felt like you give up too easily when things get tough? We know that when it feels like you have a mountain in front of you, it can make you feel weary, bone weary, tired, where you just don't feel that you have the strength to continue. We get it because we have those moments too.
They sure do.
But we know that sometimes we have to push through those hard times and rely on God's strength and provision to get us through. We also know that sometimes we need to pivot. We aren't saying to keep doing the same silly thing over and over again that isn't working, right? Every situation is unique, and God is asking something different of each of us. The big picture thinking here is that we can do all things to the glory of God, or that we are called to do all things to the glory of God. So when he calls you to something, he will also equip you for it. It's our job to keep being faithful and keep showing up.
I love what you said right there. If he's called you for something, he has equipped you for it. You know, he made us he knows us before we're even born. He knows us in our mother's womb, and he knows what gifts he has equipped you with. We sometimes don't know what they are, but it's our job to find out what they are because he has equipped you for whatever he has called you to do. So he's called you and I for something, and he's called you for something different because our DNAs are different. only you can do what he has called you to do, because you have the right gifts and talents to do it. We can't do what he's called you to do.
So we have to stop giving up when things get tough. And again, that every situation is unique. Sometimes we need to pivot. Sometimes we need to quit something. Sometimes we do need to make changes, but we can't give up just because things get hard.
Because we can do hard things.
Yeah. And so we're just asking you today to take a look at your life as we take a look at ours, and ask yourself, like, where in my life am I giving up too quickly? Where am I just throwing up the white flag, or is it the white flag? I don't know.
Yeah,
and just saying, like,
flag.
yeah, like, I surrender, I can't do it, you beat me. Like, to life, right? Or to a circumstance. Maybe it's like, we've got a whole list of things written down. Maybe it's staying away from sweets that you just keep giving up because it's like, well, I can't do it. Can't say no. I'm going to just eat it anyway. Maybe it's eating healthy. Maybe it's moving your body. Those are some of the healthy Christian living things, like weight loss stuff that we often talk about. But there's so much more. Maybe it's saving money.
Yeah. Maybe it's going to be being on time.
Yeah.
Maybe, like so many people, maybe you're included in this, but if you have planned to meet someone at a certain time and you think, oh, they're going to be late again because they're always late. If you think that about that person, think about if that's you. Like, are we showing up on time? Because
I think a lot of people just resign themselves to the fact, like, well, I'm just going to be late anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just giving up.
It is, because you could just start getting ready that much earlier. If you're 10 minutes late, start 10 minutes earlier and be on time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't give up on yourself. Start being on time. Start maybe loving your spouse. Maybe you haven't been loving your spouse. I even thought yesterday of my own journey with my spouse. Maybe I haven't been loving him the way I need to love him. Maybe he needs something more from me. And that's a conversation I need to have with my husband. But think about those things. Are you giving up on your relationship? Are you giving up on a relationship with your children? Maybe you have adult children and there's strife or conflict. Are you giving up too quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you need to show mercy. Are you giving up too quickly? Do you need to be faithful? Do you need to keep loving? Do you need to show mercy and kindness to those people that come to your mind?
Mm-hmm.
We just sometimes give up too quickly and we don't reap the rewards.
Yeah, because one of the verses that we talk about so often is we reap what we sow. And it says in that verse, it's in Galatians 3, 5, and 6, I think. I don't know, that might be not quite the right reference, but like, we reap what we sow if at the proper time, if we do not give up, right? Like, the promise is there, we will reap what we sow. But the promise also says we will reap what we sow at the proper time if we don't give up. And I think that's like, sometimes I just think God is like watching us going like, oh, these guys, they got to learn to just keep pushing through, to keep being consistent, to keep showing up, to keep doing what's right, to keep living faithfully, because we will reap what we sow. But think about actually planting seeds in your garden. If you just plant the seeds and don't ever give it any water or care, you're not going to reap the same harvest that you would if you actually tended to it.
That's for sure.
Right? Or like, think about your flowers. We've talked about flowers before, and it's like, we're willing to expend, especially as women in the spring and summertime, so much energy on maintaining our beautiful flowers, and we water them 8 times a day if we need to, and we deadhead them, and we go look at them, and we give
talk to
so
them. We
much
love them.
care and attention to these flowers, and we don't do that to other people. We don't do that to ourselves. We don't, Yeah.
So it's time that we just stop and reflect. Are we giving up too easily on the things that we know we're supposed to be doing for the glory of God? We need to be continually living faithfully. I love that, like you said. And, it's being consistent with the things that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we wrote down is disciplining our children. It's hard to discipline your children. It's hard to be consistent when your kids are busy little children. Like Casey's going through that right now. Like, it's hard to be consistent, but we have to be consistent in order for them to live a good life. Those are the boundaries. And I'm going to say that's wisdom from the Bible. The Bible talks about discipline, and God disciplines those he loves. That's what we have to do with our children. That doesn't mean beating them up. That's not what we're saying. It means loving them and living faithfully using the wisdom from Scripture.
Exactly. Yeah. I saw a few comments there, but we don't have a very good setup here today. We've had some glitches with our technology, but I'm a housewife Christian and find it hard to be consistent. Yeah.
It's so hard to be consistent on those things. And you're not alone in that. There's
No.
many women who are homemakers, and it's hard to be consistent. It's hard to be consistent with making my bed every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say my husband often makes the bed while I make coffee. And I'm so thankful that I have a husband who is willing to keep the bedroom neat and tidy, because I love that. I like a tidy house. But it's like we said earlier, it's how we do anything is how we do everything.
And I think one of the big keys that we wanted to talk about with this particular topic today is that we have to stop relying on our feelings. Because our feelings, they're valid. God gave us emotions, but if we live by our feelings, they will lead us astray faster than you can blink. Because
they sure will.
We don't feel like making our beds, so then we don't do it. But if we never did anything we didn't feel like, we would just be slobs that sat on the couch and never went to work and never made any money and never ate any, like, we would be nothing if we just lived based on not feeling like it.
Yeah, because you can feel a whole pile of things. You can feel hatred. You can feel envy. You can feel pride. And those are all things that Scripture tells us to avoid.
You can feel like not disciplining your kids, because sometimes I don't feel like it.
That's right.
Right? And sometimes, like for that example, sometimes I do need to say to my husband, no, it's your turn here, because I've done it enough times today, right? So sometimes we do need to give ourselves that space to feel our emotions and maybe to go like release them, go for a walk, or, expend some energy somehow in a positive way. But it doesn't mean that we just give up and quit.
That's right, because feelings, they're real. We have these feelings, and God can handle our feelings. Mm-hmm. We can come to God with our feelings and say, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. I'm feeling like you're not there for me. I'm feeling like you're not answering me. God can handle those feelings. But we have to recognize that the devil wants to use those feelings, and often our feelings are not true. They're lies, because it's the way the enemy gets to us. So we have to recognize that, and we have to say, no, you know what? God wants me to protect and look after the things that he's given me. So maybe I do need to take care of my house. Maybe I do need to look after my things, because that's honoring and respecting and valuing the things that God has blessed me with. Even if we don't feel like making the bed, maybe that's a habit that we want to start, because it's going to help us get into the habit of other good things. And making a bed is just a silly example, but it is an example of being consistent.
Yeah. I think one more thing I've been thinking, and then we were going to wrap it up today, is just one of the feelings I think that so many of us are struggling with that makes us quit is being offended. We get offended at absolutely everything these days, and then it just shuts us down, right? We get offended that somebody said something that we didn't like. We get offended at somebody else's political views. We get offended at the sign that's on. We get offended at the Olympic opening ceremonies. We get offended by this. We get offended by that.
We get offended by emails. We get offended by texts. We get offended because somebody used all caps. We get offended at everything.
Yeah. And oh my goodness, I think that just causes us to shut down, and we give up. And how can we show God's love when we're living offended?
How can we show mercy? Well, we have to stop by, I'm going to say, being unoffendable. How does that?
We have to start being unoffendable.
Yeah. There's a whole message on that.
There's a book.
Just love.
Yeah, it's a great book. But if you think about Jesus, when he was on the earth, like, think about how many times he could have been offended.
He probably was offended a lot.
Yeah.
But he didn't allow those feelings to get to him.
Exactly.
Because he was like us. He was human.
Yeah, but he didn't give up on the mission that God had for him because he felt like it, or because he felt offended, or because he, just don't think I'm going to keep going today because it's too hard. Or
he kept going. He persevered. He ran the race well, and he did it not for himself. He had humility and he did it for the glory of God. God equipped him to do his task on earth. And God has equipped you to do whatever he's called you to do. And he has equipped you and I to do whatever he has called us to do. So we have to live out our life faithfully.
So ask yourself today whether you need to pivot, whether you need to keep pushing through something, and where you are giving up too easily in your life that you need to take a good hard look and go like, no, I need to live faithfully in this area of my life right now to see the good things that God has for me.
Because there are plenty. And once we begin to understand and to see those things that he has and wants to bless us with, it's just going to create more joy in our life, and we'll want to keep being consistent. We'll want to run the race. We'll want to persevere, and we won't want to quit.
Exactly. So I think that's all for you for today, for our encouragement for you, but we always like to end with something. So today we will say, remember that you are a beautiful woman chosen for greatness.
And we believe in you. Stay encouraged.